Have you ever wondered where the stock market came from? It wasn't Wall Street, and it wasn't some grand hall filled with shouting traders. It all started in a tiny, waterlogged country with a massive ambition, the Netherlands. Back in 1602, the Dutch were the kings of global trade. To fund their incredibly risky but profitable sea voyages to Asia, they came up with a revolutionary idea. They created the Dutch East India Company, or the VOC. But here's the brilliant part. Instead of just a few rich merchants funding it, they allowed anyone, from a baker to a blacksmith, to buy a piece of the company. These pieces were called shares, and just like that, the world's first publicly traded company was born. To trade these shares, they needed a place. So, the Amsterdam Stock Exchange was established. But it wasn't a fancy building at first. Most of the action happened in bustling cafes and along the city's canals. People would gather, sipping coffee, and trade paper certificates representing ownership in these epic voyages to the other side of the world. For the first time, ordinary citizens could invest in global commerce, and fortunes were being made. The Dutch economy was booming, and Amsterdam became the financial center of the universe. But as with any new gold rush, things started to get a little wild. People saw how much money was being made from VOC shares and thought, what else can we trade? And their eyes fell on something beautiful, exotic, and new. The tulip. Tulips had just arrived from the Ottoman Empire and were seen as a symbol of extreme wealth and status. The rarer the bulb, the higher the price. Soon, the desire for tulips spiraled into a full-blown speculative frenzy known as Tulip Mania. The stock exchange, once a place for funding trade, became a casino for flower bulbs. People weren't buying tulips to plant in their gardens. They were buying them purely because they believed the price would go up and they could sell them to someone else for a profit. It got insane. Contracts for tulip bulbs were traded for sums that were 10 times the annual income of a skilled craftsman. People traded their homes, their land, and their life savings for a single, rare bulb. At the peak of the madness, one bulb, the legendary Semper Augustus, was said to have been sold for the price of a grand estate on the Amsterdam Canal. The entire country was gripped by this get-rich-quick fever. It seemed like the party would never end. And then it did. In the winter of 1637, for no single clear reason, the confidence that held this whole fragile market together just vanished. A major bulb auction in Haarlem failed to attract any high bids. Panic spread like wildfire. Everyone who had bought bulbs at sky-high prices tried to sell at the same time. But there were no buyers. The market completely collapsed. Prices didn't just fall, they plummeted. Bulbs that were worth a fortune one week were worthless the next. People who thought they were millionaires woke up to find themselves bankrupt. Fortunes were wiped out overnight. The aftermath was a harsh lesson in the psychology of markets. It was a mess of lawsuits, broken contracts, and financial ruin. While the Dutch economy eventually recovered, the story of Tulip Mania became a legend, the world's first major financial bubble and crash. It served as a powerful, timeless warning about the dangers of herd mentality, speculation, and the madness of crowds. It showed that what goes up, especially when driven by hype instead of real value, can come down in the most spectacular way. So, the next time you look at a stock chart, remember the Dutch and their tulips. The technology has changed, but the human emotions of greed and fear that drove that first bubble are still very much with us today. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this trip back in time, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories from history. See you next time.